This is it, the final chance. 5 match days have already gone by and there is only one more to go before the knockouts. Some teams have already qualified to the round of 16 while others are only hoping to qualify for the Copa Sudamericana. But for everyone else, it's do or die if they still wanna fight for eternal glory. Which is why here in Ranked Talks Bowl we're gonna predict all the games in match day 6 of the Copa Libertadores 2025. Botafogo have found new life in Group A. At home against Estudiantes, they were struggling to break through until Juan Cruz appeared on the far post to tap in a cross and make it 1-0 before the end of the half. Botafogo kept on testing the reflexes of goalkeeper Mancilla until finally a header from Igor Jesus in the 52nd minute was too much for the Argentinian keeper to handle. But being 2-0 up, Botafogo began to crumble. First, they conceded a penalty which was scored by Thiago Palacios, and in the 77th minute, Palacios appeared again on the left to put in an equalizer. But luckily for Botafogo, Arthur Guimaraes came to the rescue and with a great solo goal, he gave the Brazilians a win they desperately needed. Now they gotta close out the group against U de Chile, who did what was expected of them and absolutely destroyed Dumbface. The Chileans were always in control and every time they attacked it seemed like it could be a goal. Sepúlveda, Aranguis, Saldivia and Poblete all got on the score sheet and they only scored 4 because they had some pity of Carabobo. The group is now gonna have a photo finish and a lot depends on what happens in this game to be played in Rio. Botafogo have been mid all tournament while U de Chile got off to an amazing start and have looked shaky since. It's a very hard one to call, but playing at home, I believe that Botafogo will win and make the round of 16. Carabobo were already eliminated, but they still had the chance to not completely embarrass themselves against U de Chile. However, the Venezuelans probably had their worst game yet and were destroyed 4-0 by the Chileans. And the score is honestly flattering considering how they played. Now they gotta travel to La Plata to play against Estudiantes, who after a rocky start away to Botafogo, they clawed their way back into the game thanks to a brace from Palacios. However, Mancilla, who had been one of the best players up until that point, dived the wrong way when faced with Arthur Guimaraes' shot, which meant that they lose 3-2 on the road. Now tied on points with Botafogo, the pressure is truly on, but luckily for them, they couldn't have asked for an easier game. If this is anything but an Estudiantes win, I want them to return their 4 Copa Libertadores trophies and never come back. Universitario keep dreaming big after they defeated Barcelona at home. They were by far the better team in the first half, but it took them until stoppage time to score when a cross from Jairo Concha was headed by Alex Valera to put the Peruvians ahead. In the second half, Barcelona pushed hard for the equalizer, but Sebastián Britos came up clutch to keep the clean sheet and give Universitario a win that puts them into the qualifying spots. However, they are not safe yet as they have to travel away to Buenos Aires to play against River Plate, who destroyed Independiente del Valle at home to secure their spot into the round of 16. The first half was extremely entertaining and back and forth. River took an early lead thanks to Dursi before Hoyos and Spinelli turned the game around for IDV. An own goal by Luis Zarata gave River the equalizer, and before the end of the half, Mateo Carvajal was sent off and gave River a penalty which was scored by Franco Mastantuono to make it 3-2 at half time. In the second half and with the man advantage, River dominated and scored 3 more. Mesa, Borja and a golazo from Lanzini rounded up the historic 6-2 win. And considering River got recently eliminated from the Argentine League playoffs, I doubt that they will go easy on Universitario, which is why I'll give the win to the Argentinians. The Ecuadorian teams disappointed this week and now they gotta battle it out between each other to see who can advance to the round of 16. First, Barcelona. Segundo Castillo toned it down a little bit with the outfit, but his team did not improve to compensate. In fact, a miscommunication in their defense allowed Universitario to score near the end of the first half. and while in the second they had chances, they were not able to convert them, and this loss puts them in a tough spot. But not as tough of a spot as Independiente del Valle, who after turning the game around and leading in Buenos Aires against River Plate, being down to 10 men, they got absolutely annihilated 6-2. Now a draw in this game would eliminate both teams. Someone has to win and hope that River can lend them a hand by beating Universitario. I have no idea how this is gonna play out. Both teams just keep on underperforming. If someone's gotta win, I believe a bit more in IDB, which is why I'll give them the victory, although I'm very hesitant on that pick. Flamengo turned into the team we know they can be at the Maracaná against Liga de Quito. An early goal by Leo Ortiz gave them the confidence they needed, and after that they began to create chance after chance. They were being pretty wasteful, but since the Ecuadorians were not fighting back, when Luis Araujo doubled their lead early into the second half, it was lights out. Now El Mengao will look to secure their qualification at home against Deportivo Táchira, who got off to an awful start at home against Central Córdoba when Edinson Chami got himself sent off 12 minutes in. And shortly after that, the Argentinians opened the score. In the 75th minute, Táchira found some hope as Brian Castillo scored an equalizer, but just as their spirits went up, they went crashing down again as they conceded again in the very next minute and lost 2-1. Now Táchira have the goal to not repeat what they did in 1980, which is to exit the Copa Libertadores on 0 points. But it's looking mighty difficult as traveling away to the Maracaná, it's hard for me to see anything but a Flamengo win. Liga de Quito made it 3 out of 3 losses this week for the Ecuadorian teams as they lost away to Flamengo. With the pressure of the Maracaná on them, it only took them 10 minutes to concede. Leo Ortiz put the Brazilians ahead, and with no response from Liga, Luis Araujo got a second to seal the game. Now Liga have an all or nothing game at home against Central Córdoba. The debutants are currently top of the group and on the cusp of qualifying to the knockouts after their win away to Deportivo Táchira. The Venezuelans got a red card in the 12th minute, which allowed the Argentinians to dominate. From a corner, Jonathan Galvan put Central Córdoba ahead, and despite Táchira finding an equalizer, less than a minute later, Gaston Verón got the goal that keeps Central top of the group. Now it's all or nothing for both teams. Liga are at home and forced to win, but with the form that they're currently in, I believe that Central Córdoba can get a draw and continue their magical run. Talleres was finally able to get a win. Without shining, they took care of business at home against Alianza Lima. An absolute golazo by Rubén Bota from outside the box and a second by De Pietri from a tight angle was enough of a lead for Talleres to defend against anything that Alianza threw at them, including a penalty saved by Burray on Paolo Guerrero. Now Talleres sit in third and with hopes of qualifying to the Copa Sudamericana, but they have to travel away to Brazil to play against Sao Paulo, who got off to a rough start at home against Libertad when Alisson was sent off in the 16th minute. They defended well and they didn't allow the team from Paraguay to get many chances, yet in the second half, Libertad was able to take the lead with a header from Gustavo Aguilar. It seemed like the Brazilians would have no time to respond, but in the 90th minute, Marquez found a goal that keeps Sao Paulo in control of the group. Now this is a weird game to predict because Sao Paulo has looked much better on the road than at home, and with Talleres having nothing to lose, I think that this one could end in a draw. Everything that Alianza accomplished before the group stage went straight to the trash can as they lost away to Talleres and got eliminated from the Copa Libertadores. After conceding twice in the first half, Paolo Guerrero had the chance to get one back before the break, but his penalty was saved by Burray, which killed the morale of the Peruvians, who didn't create anything in the second half. With their elimination sealed, Alianza will look for the Copa Sudamericana spot away to Libertad, who secured their place in the round of 16 away to Sao Paulo. Despite being up a man early on, the Paraguayans weren't able to grab a hold of the game, but from a set piece in the 74th minute, Gustavo Aguilar was able to head them in front. Libertad defended with everything they had, but Sao Paulo equalized in the 90th minute. Disappointing for Libertad, but the draw still means that they qualify for the knockouts, and now at home against Alianza Lima, I believe that they will win and try to fight for first place. Atlético Bucaramanga fought their way to a draw away to Fortaleza. They were bailed out a few times by the woodwork and Fortaleza's poor finishing, and they didn't create many good chances of their own, but it was still good enough for the 0-0 result, and the draw secures them a spot in the Copa Sudamericana. And they can still dream about the round of 16 as they travel away to Chile to visit Colo-Colo, who for a second game in a row were battered 4-0, this time by Racing Club. The Chileans had a few chances with counter-attacks and set pieces, but at the break they were still 2-0 down. And to make matters worse, after conceding a third, Arturo Vidal decided to flex his 2 Copa America titles to the crowd, forgetting that he was already booked, and got himself sent off, leaving Colo-Colo with 10 men, which gave Racing enough time to score a fourth. Now, with nothing to play for and in an empty stadium, I believe that Colo-Colo has no motivation for this game, unlike Atlético Bucaramanga, who I think can get the win and fight for a spot in the knockouts. Racing showed their dominant selves once again. They had no mercy at home against Colo-Colo. In the first half, a brace from Adrián Martínez gave them a comfortable lead. Solari and Balboa rounded up the 4-0 win that sees Racing top of the group, spot they'll have to defend at home against Fortaleza, who dominated the game and created plenty of opportunities at home against Atlético Bucaramanga, but their finishing let them down and the 0-0 draw puts them in a dangerous spot. 2 points behind Racing, but also 2 points ahead of Bucaramanga. They need to pick up a result to not depend on what's happening in the other game, but with their subpar finishing and the form that Racing is currently on, I believe that La Academia will be the one to pick up the win and secure first place. Nacional were high on spirits going into their game at home against Internacional, which is why it must have hurt super bad to lose and be eliminated at home. The Uruguayans created nothing in the first half, and in the 45th minute, Inter took the lead through Ricardo Matias. In the second half, Nacional tried with everything that they had, but their efforts were useless, and in a counter-attack at the death, Brian Aguirre put a second goal for Inter, which sealed the elimination of the Uruguayan giant. Now they gotta play at home against Atlético Nacional, who played a very boring game against Bahia in Colombia. However, a single goal by Viveros early into the second half got them the win that sees them top of the group. However, El Verdolaga have looked very underwhelming away from home, which is why, even with nothing to play for but pride, I think that Nacional can be the one to pick up the win. Bahia keep disappointing the hipsters. After a promising start, now they sit third in the group after losing away to Atlético Nacional. Neither team created much, but the Colombians hit in the right moment, and now we're gonna have an all-Brazilian clash as they have to travel away to Internacional, who picked up a huge win away to Montevideo against Nacional. Inter were always the better team and they were deservedly leading at halftime thanks to a goal by Ricardo Matias. The second half was end-to-end with a lot of drama, but in stoppage time it would be Brian Aguirre to finish off a counter-attack and make it 2-0 for Internacional. Both teams have given me reasons to doubt them, but playing at home, I will reluctantly give the win to Inter. Bolívar went toe-to-toe with Palmeiras for like 6 minutes when Cerqueira scored to put the Brazilians ahead, and in the 12th minute the Bolivians conceded a second. Palmeiras didn't need more than that, and so they spared Bolívar of a beatdown, but with this loss they are still eliminated from the Libertadores after making the knockouts in the past 2 editions. However, they can still qualify for the Copa Sudamericana, and luckily for the Altitude Merchants, now they play at home against Cerro Porteño, who were finally clinical in their visit to Sporting Cristal. In the 14th minute, Juan Iturbe gave the Paraguayans the lead, and then they resorted to defending as well as they could. And they succeeded despite Jonathan Torres getting sent off near the end. However, La Paz is no joke and Bolívar still have something to play for. Cerro hasn't really been the most consistent team, which is why I'll give the win to the Altitude Merchants. Sporting Cristal let a great opportunity go at home against Cerro Porteño. They were behind by the 15th minute and the Peruvians weren't creating good opportunities. In the second half, Cristal looked a lot better, but they were stopped by Alexis Arias in goal, the woodwork and Cerro's defense. And not even being up a man in the final minutes, they managed to find an equalizer. Cristal now sit in third, and what horrible timing as they have to travel away to play against Palmeiras, who got the job done early on against Bolívar. Two quick goals from Cerqueira and Facundo Torres gave them a 2-0 lead, and they had 78 minutes to spare to relax against the Bolivians. And even with Palmeiras top of the group and with nothing to play for, I believe that they will complete the 4th ever perfect group stage in the history of the Copa Libertadores and defeat Sporting Cristal at home. Olimpia went away to Peñarol in search of a miracle, and by half-time they were succeeding. From a corner, Darío Benedetto hit the post, and the rebound was tapped in by Lisandro Lopez to give the Paraguayans the lead. And after a great combination play, Iván Leguizamón made it 2-0 for Olimpia. However, in the second half, everything went downhill. Early on, Peñarol scored twice to tie the game, and in the 73rd minute, Eric Remedi scored a dagger with a missile from outside the box to complete the comeback and eliminate Olimpia not only from the Libertadores, but the Sudamericana as well. Which is great news for San Antonio Bulo Bulo, who despite losing 3-0 away to Vélez, they will still have international competition to look forward to. As it was expected, San Antonio created nothing in this game, but they were doing a great job of keeping the Argentinians at bay. But a penalty in the second half opened the floodgates, and Vélez ended up putting 3 past the Bolivians. Now this is a dead rubber game, but playing at home with their crowd, I believe that Olimpia has enough to defeat this horrible Bulo Bulo team who have been overperforming massively this Libertadores. Peñarol were having trouble at home against Olimpia. By halftime they were 2-0 down and trailing behind in the race for the top of the group. But Peñarol didn't win 5 Libertadores by simply giving up. Leo Fernández inspired the Uruguayans with a goal in the 50th minute and an assist 5 minutes later for Maxi Olivera, and the comeback would be completed by Eric Remedi with a golazo from his own backyard to make it 3-2. Now Peñarol closed out the group, receiving Vélez in Montevideo. The Argentinians were dominating but not breaking through Bulo Bulo in Buenos Aires. In the second half, however, they were awarded a penalty that was scored by Maher Carrizo. Michael Santos got a second with a shot from outside the box, and in stoppage time the other wonderkid appeared as Álvaro Montoro rounded up the 3-0 win. Now this game decides who tops the group. Vélez, having the superior goal difference, could secure it with a draw, but with Peñarol being at home and more motivated than ever, I believe that El Mancha will win and secure first place. And this is how my predictions are going. Finally a positive week for me, as I got 10 correct predictions and 6 incorrect, bringing the total score to 38 correct predictions and 42 incorrect. I finally cut some distance, but I need to keep up this form if I wanna enter positive numbers in the weeks to come. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Remember to like, leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to not miss out on any more Copa Libertadores content. I'll be seeing you all next time.